Golden Plaza Mall shimmered with dazzling lights on a weekend afternoon, bustling like a vivid portrait of luxury. Laughter and chatter mixed with gentle background music from the speakers, and the air carried a hint of expensive perfume. Harper Quinn, 26, walked through the crowd, her naturally curly brown hair bouncing with each step, and her sparkling brown eyes gleamed with mischief, as if she was ready to stir up the world. She wore a cartoon cat-printed t-shirt, ripped jeans, and her favorite worn-out sneakers, a look that clashed entirely with the upscale vibe of Golden Plaza. But Harper didn't care one bit. In her hand was a cup of bubble tea, a reward she treated herself to after finishing a graphic design project that had left her clients speechless. As a freelance designer, Harper was known for her bold ideas and vibrant colors, but her personal life was more like a chaotic doodle, full of unwanted drama. 3 months ago, Harper had kicked out Caleb, her abusive ex-boyfriend, from her life. She thought she was finally free, but Caleb lingered like a stubborn shadow. Threatening messages and sudden appearances kept her constantly on edge. Today, all she wanted was a peaceful day of shopping, maybe a new shirt to lift her mood. "I deserve some joy," she muttered, taking a sip of her tea and stopping in front of a boutique. She admired a sky blue blouse, imagining how perfectly it would match her sneakers. But as she stepped away, her eyes accidentally met Caleb's from across the way. His gaze flared with that all-too-familiar, threatening intensity. "Oh no, not today," Harper murmured, heart pounding. Her hand trembled slightly, almost spilling the tea, but she quickly steadied herself. Harper Quinn wasn't the kind of woman who backed down easily. Spinning around, she darted into the thick crowd, determined to disappear before Caleb could spot her. "You're not winning this time, you jerk," she thought, eyes scanning for an escape. The spacious mall suddenly felt like a suffocating maze with no way out. In her rush, Harper collided hard with a tall man, nearly spilling her drink. "Oh, sorry," she blurted out, looking up to apologize again, and froze when her eyes locked with a pair of deep, icy blue ones. The man wore a perfectly tailored black suit, exuding power and detachment, like he had just walked out of an elite drama. He stood motionless, barely flinching, only slightly furrowing his brows as he looked at her. Harper could feel the force of his presence, but she had no time to be intimidated. She spotted Caleb closing in, his footsteps growing louder in the crowd. In a split second, a reckless idea sparked. Harper wrapped her arms tightly around the stranger and pressed close to him like they were an affectionate couple. "Please, just pretend to be my boyfriend for 1 minute," she whispered, her voice shaking but full of resolve. The man stiffened slightly, clearly surprised, but he didn't push her away. Harper felt his body warmth, caught a whiff of his masculine cologne, and for a fleeting moment, nearly forgot the danger. To sell the act, Harper tilted her head up and gave him a dazzling smile, her eyes sparkling like she was starring in a perfect play. "Babe, let's go get dinner. Yeah, I'm starving," she said brightly, loud enough for Caleb to hear. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw him weaving through the crowd, eyes locked in her direction. Without hesitation, she tugged the man toward a corner near the coffee counter, clinging even closer, her hands still wrapped firmly around his waist. "Don't move, hero," she whispered, adding a hint of playful sarcasm to mask her fear. "You're doing great. I owe you a bubble tea." The man didn't reply, but she could feel his gaze on her, as if trying to figure out who this audacious woman was. Harper kept up the act, voice brimming with excitement. "See? I told you the Italian place was better. Next time, just trust me." She made sure to speak loudly, drowning out the erratic beat of her heart. Caleb passed by, his eyes sweeping over them, and didn't stop. He didn't recognize her. Harper exhaled deeply, slowly letting go of the man, feeling like she had just escaped a Hollywood chase scene. "Thank you. You're a real-life superhero without the cape," she beamed at him, pointing at him like she was awarding him a medal. "Seriously, you just saved my life." She started to step away, but his deep, calm voice stopped her. "Next time you should pick a smarter way to run," he said coolly, but the faint curve at the corner of his mouth hinted at a suppressed smile. Harper looked up, taking in his face clearly for the first time. He was sharply handsome, his features like they were carved from marble, neatly combed black hair, and those piercing blue eyes that held an entire ocean of mystery. Her cheeks flushed, but she quickly recovered. Smarter, huh? Got any better suggestions, Mr. Fancy Suit? She teased, placing a hand on her hip and giving him a cheeky wink. Sure, she had just done something completely insane, but Harper Quinn was never one to be embarrassed for long. She knew how to turn awkwardness into charm, and her grin was hard for anyone to resist. The man looked at her with a flicker of curiosity, as if she was a puzzle he hadn't encountered before. "You owe me an explanation," he said in an even tone. Yet there was an undeniable magnetism behind his words. And without waiting for her answer, he turned and walked away, his tall figure vanishing into the crowd. Harper stood frozen, still holding her now lukewarm bubble tea. "Okay, that was ridiculously cool," she muttered, unable to suppress a smile. Only after he disappeared did someone passing by whisper to a friend, "That was Grayson Blake, CEO of Blake Enterprises. People say he's ice cold. No one dares get close to him." Harper's eyes widened, jaw dropping. Grayson Blake, the most powerful man in the city, infamous for his arrogance and looks that made the world stop and stare. She had just hugged him, called him babe, and dragged him into a ridiculous act just to avoid her ex. "Oh my God, Harper, you're a master at digging your own grave," she whispered to herself, covering her face but her lips still curved into a smile. And yet deep down, Harper felt something strange. The way Grayson looked at her, despite the icy exterior, held something different, as if, unknowingly, she had just planted a tiny seed in his frozen world. And Harper Quinn, bold, funny, and always eager to brighten someone's day, had no idea that this fateful hug was about to change her life forever. You're watching Soul Stories, where every story whispers of love, healing, and hope. Let us know which city you're watching from. A week had passed since the accidental CEO hug at Golden Plaza Mall, but Harper Quinn still couldn't shake the memory of Grayson Blake from her mind. She sat in her cozy little apartment, surrounded by colorful sketches and a cup of cold coffee. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting golden light on her cluttered desk, where colored pencils were scattered next to an oversized plush cat. Harper, her wild curls tied up in a whatever works bun, was hunched over tweaking an ad design. But every few minutes, she'd stop, stare into space and mutter, "Oh my God, Harper, did you really call Grayson Blake babe?" Then she'd burst into laughter, telling herself, "Well, at least I made a memory worth keeping." Harper was the kind of person who always found light on the darkest days. Life had thrown plenty of drama her way, from her toxic ex-boyfriend Caleb to the times her designs were rejected by picky clients, but she always chose to face it all with a smile and a splash of humor. "Smile first, cry later," was her personal motto. Today, she decided to put Grayson Blake out of her mind and focus on work. "New project, new chance," she said to herself, blasting upbeat K-pop and dancing around the room, sketchpad in hand and doodling freely on paper. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, cutting off her impromptu dance. Harper frowned, wondering who could be visiting at this hour. "Fast delivery." "I didn't order anything," she mumbled, walking to the door, still hugging the giant plush cat like a playful shield. When she opened the door, she nearly dropped it. Standing there was Grayson Blake, dressed in a flawless black suit, radiating the same cold power and authority he had the first time they met. But this time, the corners of his lips curved ever so slightly, forming a faint, unreadable smile, like he was keeping a secret. "Harper Quinn, we need to talk," Grayson said in his deep, steady voice, stepping into her apartment without waiting for an invitation. Harper froze, jaw slack, as he strode into her small space like it was the boardroom of Blake Enterprises. She closed the door, turned around, and clutched her plush cat tighter, as if it might keep her grounded. How do you know where I live?" she asked, half curious, half wary, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Don't tell me you have superpowers for tracking bubble tea." Grayson sat on the sofa, casually, like it was his office. He glanced at the plush cat in her arms and replied coolly, "I have my ways." His voice was still cold, but Harper noticed something different, as if he was suppressing a smile at her cheekiness. She shrugged, placed the plush cat on the table, and sat across from him, chin propped in one hand. "All right, big boss. What do you want?" Don't tell me you're here to find me for hugging a stranger? She winked, her bright smile lighting up the room, easing the tension. Grayson got straight to the point, his voice calm but compelling. I need your help. He explained that both the media and his family were pressuring him to settle down. A high-profile gala was coming up, and he needed to attend with a girlfriend to pacify the press and family stakeholders. I need someone to play the role of my girlfriend for 1 month, he said, locking eyes with her, clearly gauging her reaction. Harper burst out laughing, the sound echoing through her small apartment. You're joking, right? I'm no actress, big boss. I'm a designer. I draw quirky stuff and make people laugh. That's it. She crossed her arms, shaking her head, though her eyes sparkled with curiosity. Grayson didn't laugh. He pulled a leather folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. This is the contract. 1 month. You'll attend public events as my girlfriend. You'll be paid $5,000 per appearance. After that, we go our separate ways. Harper's eyes widened, nearly choking on her coffee. 50 grand? You're serious? She flipped through the contract, skimming the terms. Live with him, attend events, and appear affectionate in front of the cameras. Her brows furrowed. She looked up at Grayson, a spark of mischief in her eyes. Fine, but I have one condition, she declared, her voice firm like a seasoned attorney. You have to eat breakfast with me every morning. No skipping meals. You look like the kind of guy who lives on air and stress. She grinned broadly, like she just laid down a monumental demand. Grayson blinked, clearly caught off guard by the strange condition. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right. Harper beamed, feeling like she just won a chess match. She didn't quite know why she agreed, but something in Grayson's gaze, cold yet mysterious, made her want to challenge him. She wanted to see what would happen if she shook up his frozen world. She signed the contract, her hand slightly trembling, but her smile never fading. Welcome to the Harper Quinn Show, big boss. Buckle up, I don't know how to act. But I'm really good at making things fun, she said, raising her hand for a high five. Grayson just looked at her, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. You're unusual, he said, rising to his feet and adjusting his suit. Tomorrow my team will come pick you up. Pack your things. As Grayson walked out, Harper plopped down onto the couch, hugging her plush cat tightly. I just signed a contract to be a billionaire's fake girlfriend. Totally insane, but kind of exciting. She laughed, imagining herself waltzing into Grayson's glittering world with her scuffed-up sneakers and unstoppable smile. Let's do this, Harper, she whispered to herself, eyes gleaming. What she didn't know was that this agreement wasn't just a contract, it was the door to an emotional journey where she might just melt the frozen heart of Grayson Blake. Harper Quinn stood in the middle of Grayson Blake's massive penthouse, feeling like she just stepped into a sci-fi movie where everything gleamed with impossible luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened to a glittering view of the city below, and the leather and metal furnishings were arranged with perfect precision, not a speck of dust in sight. Clutching her heart-shaped plush pillow from home, Harper, dressed in a kitten print t-shirt and ripped jeans, gazed around wide-eyed. Wow, this place looks more like a palace than a home, she exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. You live here alone? Doesn't it get lonely? She tilted her head toward Grayson, who sat on the sofa, eyes focused on a thick folder, his entire world seemingly revolving around numbers. Grayson looked up, his deep blue eyes glancing over her, cold, but with a flicker of curiosity. I don't have time to be lonely, he replied flatly, then returned to his documents. Harper shrugged, her radiant smile unwavering. No time to be lonely? Big boss, you seriously need to learn how to live a little, she said, wandering around the room and lightly touching the furniture like she was exploring a museum. She placed her plush heart pillow on a pricey leather chair, then pulled out a small painting from her bag, a colorful illustration of bright flowers and a dancing cat. Permission to brighten up the place, she declared, pinning it onto a stark white wall, completely ignoring Grayson's puzzled look. That morning, Harper decided to cook breakfast to bond with Grayson, honoring the quirky clause she'd insisted on in their contract. But the penthouse kitchen, with its high-end appliances, looked more like a lab than a place to make eggs. Undeterred, Harper rolled up her sleeves and muttered, How hard can it be? I once made sandwiches for the entire design team. She grabbed some eggs from the fridge, but as she tried to crack one into the pan, it slipped from her fingers and splattered across the marble countertop. "Oops!" she yelped, laughing awkwardly as she grabbed a towel. "No worries. No worries, just a tiny accident," she reassured herself, her grin still bright, as if breaking an egg was some sort of victory. Hearing the noise, Grayson walked into the kitchen, a hint of irritation in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, glancing at the egg mess. Harper turned around holding a damp cloth and winked. "Creating an abstract egg masterpiece. Like it, big boss." Grayson sighed, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward in a rare expression Harper immediately noticed. Bingo! 1 point for Harper for making the Ice King smile, she thought, her heart fluttering like she just won a game. Grayson's butler, Mr. Henry, an elderly man with a kind smile, stood quietly in the corner, observing everything with amused eyes. As Grayson returned to the living room, Mr. Henry leaned in and whispered to Harper, "Miss Harper, you're the first person to make him smile this much." Harper winked and gave a thumbs up. "Mr. Henry, I'll get him to laugh out loud, just watch," she said confidently. She had a gift for bringing joy to those around her, and even someone as cold as Grayson wouldn't be an exception for long. That evening, Grayson announced he'd be taking her to try on dresses for the upcoming gala. Still in her upbeat mood, Harper danced out to the car beside him, not forgetting her cat-printed tote bag. "A gala? Sounds like a princess party. Do I get a crown too?" she teased, making Grayson's driver nearly chuckle. Grayson simply shook his head, but his eyes softened slightly, as if her energy was starting to melt through his icy armor. At the haute couture boutique, Harper stepped into a completely foreign world. Elegant gowns hung neatly on racks, illuminated by soft lighting that made the silks and sequins shimmer. The boutique staff, polite and professional, guided her to a set of pre-selected dresses. She tried on a fiery red gown that hugged her curves and complemented her wild curls. Spinning in front of the mirror, she admired the fit before turning to Grayson, who sat in a lounge chair, his eyes fixed on her. "Well, boss man, do I look like a Hollywood star yet?" she asked playfully, striking a model-like pose with a hand on her hip. Grayson stared at her, momentarily dazed, as if caught in her glowing smile. "It'll do," he replied, but his voice was a little hoarse, as though he was holding something back. Harper didn't notice the slight shift in his tone and burst out laughing. "It'll do? You're stingy with compliments. Fine, I'll just say it myself. I look amazing." She spun again, the red dress fluttering, making even the boutique staff smile. Mr. Henry, who had come along to assist, stood at the side of the room with a knowing smile. "Miss Harper, you look like a true muse," he said warmly. Harper winked. "Mr. Henry, you get it. I'm officially making you my #1 fan." Grayson, overhearing the exchange, shook his head slightly, but the curve at the corner of his mouth returned. Harper, with her humor and optimism, was unknowingly turning his cold penthouse into a place full of life. On the ride home, Harper glanced at Grayson, who was driving with his usual serious expression. "You know, big boss, if you keep being this serious all the time, life's gonna be really boring. Tomorrow I'm making a huge breakfast and you're eating with me," she declared enthusiastically. Grayson gave her a sidelong glance, surprised. "Do you ever run out of energy?" Harper grinned wide. "Run out? Never! I'm Harper Quinn, an endless energy machine." She threw up a peace sign, making Grayson chuckle a quiet sound, but enough to make Harper feel like she'd conquered the world. When they returned to the penthouse, Harper pulled a star-shaped cookie from her bag and handed it to him. "Here, a thank you for today. Try it, it's really good," she said, eyes sparkling. Grayson looked at the cookie, then at her, and for a moment his gaze softened. "You're one of a kind," he said as he took the cookie. Harper shrugged with a bright smile. "Good. This world needs more people like me to add color." That night, lying on the luxurious guest bed in the penthouse, Harper stared up at the ceiling, thinking about her first day living with Grayson. "What am I even doing? Living with a billionaire? Pretending to be his girlfriend and trying to make him laugh?" she muttered, then giggled. "But hey, this is kind of fun. Harper, you're going to turn this place into your playground." With that cheerful thought, she closed her eyes ready for whatever surprises came next, not knowing she was already beginning to sneak into Grayson Blake's frozen heart. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. On her third day in the penthouse, Harper decided to go all out on breakfast as promised. Rolling up her sleeves, she stood in the high-tech kitchen, its sleek appliances gleaming like something out of a spaceship. "These machines probably cost more than my rent," she muttered. She planned to make egg and bacon breakfast sandwiches, but while trying to blast some K-pop through the penthouse's ultra-fancy sound system, she hit the wrong button. Loud Korean pop music erupted throughout the apartment, right in the middle of Grayson's online meeting. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression stern, laptop still in hand. "Are you turning this place into a dance floor?" he asked, voice cold, but there was a faint flicker of amusement in his eyes that he tried to hide. Harper spun around, holding a spatula, beaming. "Boss man, music this good and you're not even bobbing your head? Come on, just a little bounce. It'll knock 10 years off you." She did a few goofy dance moves, prompting Grayson to shake his head, though the corners of his mouth curved unmistakably upward. He walked over, turned off the sound system, and looked at her. "Next time, check what you're pressing," he said, his tone no longer sharp. Harper winked. "Fine, but next time you're dancing with me." She burst into laughter, unfazed by his effort to appear serious. But Harper didn't stop there. She kept disrupting the penthouse in her own way. She plopped a giant stuffed teddy bear on the leather lounge chair in the living room, then added another of her hand-painted pieces, this one, a vibrant dog in a baseball cap next to one of Grayson's abstract luxury art pieces. "Look at this! The living room has soul now!" she declared proudly, hands on her hips, eyes sparkling. Grayson, reading financial reports, glanced over and sighed. "You really think that belongs in here?" Harper grinned wide. "Of course it does. You need some fun in your life, boss man." Her optimism was like a gust of fresh air, breezing through a space previously filled only with silence and structure. That afternoon, Harper insisted on roping Grayson into her project of making DIY sandwiches, even though he protested that he only ate meals prepared by Michelin-starred chefs. "You don't know what living is," she declared, stuffing an egg, bacon, and melty cheese sandwich into his hand. "Try it. I made it with all my heart." She stood in front of him, eyes glowing like a kid waiting for praise. Grayson looked at the sandwich, then at her, skeptical. He took a reluctant bite, chewed slowly, and then said, "Not bad." Harper squealed and threw up a victory sign. "See? I knew you'd like it." Another point for Harper Quinn. She beamed like she just won a major prize, and Grayson couldn't help but let out one of his rare smiles. Mr. Henry, Grayson's longtime butler, watched it all unfold with open delight. He even started engineering chances for the two to be alone together, forgetting to call the chef, arranging dinner with only 2 chairs side by side. One evening, as Grayson and Harper ate a simple pasta dish she'd whipped up from leftover ingredients, Mr. Henry stood in the corner, smiling knowingly. "Miss Harper, you've brought a new breeze into this place," he whispered when Grayson wasn't looking. Harper winked. "Mr. Henry, I'm turning this penthouse into a theme park before I leave. Just wait." She laughed, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Gradually, Harper realized that Grayson wasn't as cold as she'd once thought. He would quietly observe her while she sketched at the dining table, his deep blue eyes following the strokes of her pencil. One time she told a ridiculous joke about how to convince a cat to eat vegetables and caught Grayson smiling. A small, genuine smile, as if she'd accidentally touched something hidden inside him. "You smiled! That's a point for me!" she cheered, pointing at him. Grayson shook his head, but his eyes were warmer than ever. "You're a handful," he said, but there was no annoyance in his tone. One afternoon, while Grayson worked in the living room, Harper decided to upgrade the vibe by playing a cheerful animated movie on the massive TV. She plopped onto the couch with a bowl of popcorn and called out, "Boss man, take a break. Watch this with me. I guarantee you'll laugh out loud." Grayson glanced over, his expression half annoyed, half curious. "I don't watch kid stuff," he muttered. Harper was undeterred. She tossed a popcorn kernel at him. It landed squarely on his file folder. "Come on, life isn't just meetings and contracts," she said, her smile glowing. Eventually, Grayson sighed and sat on the couch, keeping a safe distance, but Harper noticed him sneaking glances as she giggled at the screen. When the movie ended, Harper turned to find him already watching her, his gaze intense. "See? Not bad, right?" she said, winking. Grayson gave a small nod, his voice low. "You make things different." Harper grinned. "Different is good, boss man. I'm going to show you how fun life can be." She didn't realize that with every laugh and impulsive act, she was slowly melting the icy walls Grayson had built around himself. That night, Harper sat in the living room sketching a new design. "This penthouse is definitely a challenge," she muttered to herself. But Harper Quinn never gives up. She looked at the colorful paintings she'd hung up, the stuffed bear on the chair, and thought of Grayson, the man who once seemed so unreachable, now showing little flickers of warmth. With a heart full of light and a mission to make others smile, Harper knew she was turning this cold, elegant penthouse into her own kind of playground. And even though this contract was supposed to be fake, she had a feeling she was leaving behind something very real in Grayson Blake's world. The gala at the Empire Grand Hotel was a dazzling affair. Crystal chandeliers lit up the massive ballroom, wine glasses sparkled under the lights, and the gentle notes of a violin flowed through the elegant hum of high society conversation. Harper Quinn stepped into the ballroom, her arm linked with Grayson Blake's, feeling like she had just wandered into a world she didn't belong to. The fiery red dress hugged her figure, accentuating her natural curls and the playful sparkle in her eyes. Beside her, Grayson, dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, radiated a cold but magnetic aura, like a king among the crowd. The entire room seemed to hold its breath as the two of them entered, all eyes turning toward the couple who looked like they'd walked straight out of a fairy tale. Harper could feel the stares, but instead of being overwhelmed, she smiled brightly and whispered to Grayson, "Boss man, I bet they think we're the leads in a Hollywood romantic comedy." Grayson glanced at her, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Just don't do anything over the top," he said in his usual low tone, though he couldn't fully hide his curiosity at her infectious energy. Harper winked, giving his arm a playful squeeze. "Relax, I'm a pro at this. But you have to work with me. Ditch the ice block expression, will you?" She giggled, drawing a few curious glances from nearby guests who were intrigued by the mysterious woman, managing to make the famously aloof Grayson Blake appear approachable. The gala unfolded with its usual formalities, speeches, handshakes, polite smiles. But Harper, with her vibrant personality and warm humor, quickly found her rhythm. She chatted with guests, told funny stories about her design work, and even made an elderly woman burst out laughing by describing the time she designed a cat-shaped logo for a coffee company. But the moment that truly captured the room's attention came when a reporter from City Elite approached. Microphone raised, curiosity gleaming in her eyes. "Miss Quinn," she said, "how did you and Mr. Blake meet? Was it love at first sight?" Harper didn't skip a beat. She leaned into Grayson, her smile radiant like sunshine. "Oh, he's a tough one, always buried in work. But he has a secret nobody knows. Every morning he makes me coffee, and he always adds 1 extra spoon of sugar because he knows I like it sweet. How could I not fall for that?" The answer sent laughter rippling through the crowd. A few people even clapped in delight. Grayson stood frozen, his expression caught somewhere between stunned and amused. He looked at Harper, visibly thrown off. Harper just winked at him, her eyes saying, "See? I've got this." The truth, of course, was that Grayson had never made her coffee, but Harper, with her vivid imagination and quick wit, had spun a fake story so sweet even she almost believed it. What she didn't realize was that her words stirred something unexpected in Grayson's chest. He stood beside her, silently watching, deep blue eyes searching her face like he was trying to understand why this woman had such a strange magnetic pull. Later that evening, when the crowd grew stuffy and camera flashes became too much, Grayson gently led Harper out onto the balcony. The night air was cool, and the city lights sparkled in the distance. Harper leaned on the railing, her red dress fluttering in the breeze, and turned to him with a mischievous grin. "So, boss man, how was my performance tonight? Oscar-worthy?" she teased, lifting her hand like she was accepting an award. Grayson didn't answer right away. He stood beside her, gaze fixed on the skyline. Then suddenly, he reached for her hand. His palm was warm, strong, yet the grip was tender, like he was afraid she might disappear. Harper blinked in surprise, glancing down at their joined hands, then up at him with wide, curious eyes. "There's no one watching anymore, Grayson," she said softly, her voice laced with confusion. "We don't have to keep pretending." Grayson looked at her, his eyes deep and unreadable, like he was trying to say something he'd never said to anyone before. "I'm not pretending," he replied, his voice low and hoarse, and so sincere that Harper's heart skipped a beat. She felt the warmth of his hand in hers, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them in the glittering lights of the city. Harper, usually quick with a joke, suddenly found herself unsure. "Well, this wasn't in the script," she said, trying to laugh it off, but her voice trembled slightly. Grayson didn't let go. He kept his eyes on her, like he was searching for something in her sparkling brown gaze. "You always make things unpredictable," he said, the corner of his mouth twitching into a rare but magnetic smile. Harper shrugged, trying to regain her usual flair. "That's my superpower, chaos, but in a cute way, right?" she quipped, winking. But her heart was still racing, as if it knew something her mind hadn't caught up to yet. They stood there in silence for a while, just letting the strange, unspoken connection between them settle. Harper, unable to resist being herself, eventually broke the quiet with a goofy story about almost setting her kitchen on fire while baking cookies. To her surprise, Grayson laughed, a deep, genuine sound that made her eyes widen. "You laughed again! I'm putting that in my journal. Day 10 made the boss man laugh twice," she announced, throwing up another victory sign. Grayson shook his head, but his eyes never left her, as if she were some missing puzzle piece he never realized he needed. When they returned to the ballroom, Grayson was still holding her hand, even though the cameras were gone. Harper tried to stay cool, but something new stirred in her chest. She glanced at him, this cold, guarded man who was beginning to show signs of warmth, and thought to herself, "Harper, you're playing a dangerous game, but it's thrilling." With a bright smile and a heart that always moved forward, Harper knew that this hand-holding wasn't just part of the contract, it was the beginning of something real, even if she didn't dare name it yet. That morning, Harper was sitting in the penthouse living room, sketching a new design on her iPad with upbeat K-pop playing through her headphones. She hummed along to the tune, her usual bright smile on full display until her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number made her freeze. "Harper, meet me at the old apartment. If not, those pictures go online." Attached was a blurry photo, just grainy enough to be unclear, but still recognizable. It was a private photo from the time she was still with Caleb, her abusive ex-boyfriend she tried so hard to forget. Her face went pale. Hands trembling, she stared at the screen. But then she took a deep breath and composed herself. "Don't panic, Harper," she whispered, biting her lip. "You got away from him once. You can do it again." Harper didn't want to drag Grayson into this. He had already done so much for her, from shielding her at the gala to holding her hand with a sincerity that had nothing to do with pretending. She didn't want him to see her as a burden, or worse, as someone with a messy past. Determined to handle it alone, Harper quietly packed a few things into her bag and slipped out of the penthouse. She left a small note on the table. "Thanks for everything, boss man. I'm off to take care of something, don't worry." The handwriting was messy, and she added a smiley face at the end, trying to stay in character, even though her heart felt like a tangled mess. But Grayson Blake wasn't easy to fool. When he returned to the penthouse after a short meeting, Mr. Henry, his butler, immediately informed him that Harper had left with a worried look on her face. Grayson's eyes narrowed, and he spotted the note on the table. Reading it quickly, he clenched the paper in his hand, unease settling over him. "She thinks I'd let her deal with this alone?" he muttered, voice low and firm. He pulled out his phone, contacted his security team, and within minutes he knew exactly where Harper was headed, her old apartment. When Grayson arrived, Harper was already standing outside the building, facing Caleb. He loomed over her, dressed in a black coat, eyes flashing with that all-too-familiar menace. "You really think you can hide forever, Harper?" Caleb sneered, his voice smooth but laced with malice. "Come back to me or these photos go viral." Harper clenched her fists, trying to keep her composure. Her smile was forced, and the tension in her eyes betrayed her fear. "Caleb, you don't scare me," she said, voice shaking but steady. "I gave you too many chances. You don't deserve a single second more." Before Caleb could respond, another voice cut in, calm and icy. "She's right. You don't deserve her." Grayson stepped forward from the shadows, his presence instantly shifting the energy in the air. The atmosphere turned tense, like a storm had arrived. Harper spun around, eyes wide in surprise and alarm. "Grayson, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice faltering. Grayson didn't look at her, his gaze locked on Caleb, razor sharp and unblinking. "She's mine," he said evenly, but there was no mistaking the threat in his tone. "If you lay a finger on her again, you'll regret ever being born." Caleb scoffed, trying to play it cool, but the flicker of fear in his eyes betrayed him. "Who do you think you are to threaten me?" he growled, stepping forward. Harper, though frightened, quickly stepped between them, raising her hand to hold Caleb back. "That's enough, Caleb. Whatever you want, take it out on me. Leave him out of this," she said firmly, her voice clear and unwavering. But Grayson gently pulled her behind him, his hand firm on her shoulder, protective and resolute. "You don't have to face him alone," he said, voice steady and powerful. "Not anymore." The confrontation ended swiftly, Caleb realizing he was outmatched not just by Grayson's presence, but by the security team waiting at the end of the street, turned and walked away, but not without casting one last venomous look over his shoulder. Harper exhaled, her whole body relaxing as the threat retreated. She turned to Grayson, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but she managed a small, playful smile. "Boss man, you really are a superhero. But next time, maybe give me a heads up before swooping in? I need to mentally prepare," she joked, trying to hide how shaken she truly felt. Grayson's expression softened, though it remained serious. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, voice low with a hint of hurt. Harper shrugged, clinging to her usual optimism. "I didn't want you to think I was trouble. I can handle myself, you know." She smiled, but Grayson didn't return it. Instead, he took her hand and started walking her toward the car. "From now on, your problems are my problems. You don't have to carry it all alone," he said, his voice like a quiet vow. On the ride back to the penthouse, Harper sat silently, her fingers still wrapped around his. She felt safe but also overwhelmed. She knew Caleb wasn't done, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone in the fight. "Thank you, boss man," she whispered, her smile slowly returning. "But next time, let me teach you how to threaten someone. With a joke, it's way more effective." Grayson shook his head, but the corner of his mouth curved up slightly, a warm flicker in his usually cold eyes. Back at the penthouse, Harper sank into the sofa, clutching her stuffed cat, still a bit shaken. But she whispered to herself, "Harper, you're stronger than this. With Grayson here, Caleb's nothing." She looked over at Grayson, standing by the window, tall and silent like a statue carved in stone. And with the optimism that never left her side, Harper knew one thing for certain. No matter how much the past tried to haunt her, she would face it with a smile, and now she had someone willing to stand beside her. Even if their relationship had started as a lie. After the tense confrontation with Caleb, Grayson Blake knew Harper Quinn needed space to recover. Without hesitation, he arranged a trip to his seaside villa on the outskirts of the city where the sound of waves and the salty ocean air could soothe even the heaviest heart. True to her optimistic spirit, Harper initially protested, "Boss man, I'm fine. No need for a dramatic getaway." But when Grayson looked at her with that rare, unwavering gaze, she shrugged and gave him her signature radiant smile. "All right, beach it is. But you have to promise to try ice cream with me. No backing out." Grayson simply nodded, a flicker of softness crossing his eyes just enough to make Harper's heart flutter. Grayson's beach villa was a masterpiece, floor-to-ceiling glass windows, open to an endless blue horizon and soft white sands. Harper stepped inside, clutching her heart-shaped plush pillow, her eyes gleaming like a child on vacation. "Okay, this place is prettier than a Hollywood movie. "Are you sure you don't shoot blockbusters here?" she asked, turning to Grayson, who stood by the window, calm and unreadable. "You're here to rest, not explore," he replied. But the slight curve at the corner of his mouth gave him away. Her excitement was contagious. Their days at the villa passed like a gentle dream. Harper pulled Grayson into simple joys he'd never experienced before. They strolled along the shoreline. Harper kicked off her shoes and ran barefoot, laughing as the waves soaked her dress. "Come on, boss man, lose the shoes. The sand's soft, you'll regret not trying it," she called, waving him over. Grayson, dressed in a plain white shirt for once instead of his usual suits, reluctantly stepped onto the sand barefoot. When a wave lapped over his feet, Harper giggled. "See? Life isn't just meetings and spreadsheets." He shook his head, but his eyes gleamed with something unfamiliar, like he was truly free for the first time. One afternoon, Harper dragged Grayson to a tiny ice cream stand along the beach. She ordered a vanilla cone dipped in chocolate and handed him a strawberry one. "I don't eat stuff like this," he said, his tone cool as always. But Harper shoved it into his hand, winking. "Then I'll eat it for you, but try it, you'll be addicted." Grayson sighed, took a bite, and to her surprise, nodded. "Not bad." Harper whooped in victory, throwing her arms in the air. "Bingo! Boss man officially has taste. I'm writing this in my journal. Day 15 taught Grayson how to enjoy ice cream." Her laughter rang across the beach, and although Grayson tried to remain stoic, he couldn't stop a smile from slipping through. These little moments brought them closer, like longtime friends rediscovering joy. They sat on the sand, swapping stories. Harper shared about the time a coffee shop client insisted she add cats into every corner of a logo design until she laughed herself into tears. Grayson, for the first time, opened up about his childhood, the crushing pressure to be a perfect heir, a life with no room for fun. Harper's eyes softened with understanding. "You know, boss man, sometimes all it takes is an ice cream cone to make life better," she said gently but with unshakable energy. Grayson looked at her, his eyes deep and thoughtful, as if Harper Quinn was the most unexpected discovery of his life. One evening, as rain suddenly began to pour, they ran for cover under the villa's wide awning. The downpour created a misty curtain between them and the world, softening the blue of Grayson's eyes. Harper, soaked but still glowing, tugged on his shirt sleeve. "Look at this! It's so beautiful, just like a scene from a romance movie." Grayson stared at her, his gaze more tender than she'd ever seen. And for once, Harper grew serious. "If the contract ends, what are we, Grayson?" Her question dropped like a stone into still water, rippling through him. He looked at her, rain dripping from his hair, a single drop tracing the curve of his cheek. "Real," he said, his voice husky and low, carrying a raw honesty that made Harper's heart skip. Before she could respond, Grayson pulled her into his arms and kissed her fierce and full of meaning. The rain poured down around them, but Harper felt only warmth. The intensity in his every touch told her that nothing about this was pretend anymore. Startled at first, Harper responded with matching passion. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and even as their lips met, she was smiling. When they finally parted, she looked at him, her mischievous spark returning. "Boss man, you just broke the rules. There's no kissing clause in the contract." Grayson chuckled, a rare deep sound that vibrated through her chest. "You broke the rules first, Harper," he replied, his hand still holding her like he couldn't let go. They stood there under the awning, rain cascading all around, but between them, there was nothing but warmth. For Harper, whose heart had always leaned toward laughter and light, something new crept in, a feeling deeper than excitement. Not just the thrill of a game, but something real. "You know what?" she whispered, her smile glowing like sunlight after the rain. "I like this. The real version." Grayson didn't say a word. He just squeezed her hand tighter, his eyes promising this was only the beginning. That night, as Harper lay on the bed in her ocean view room, hugging her plush heart pillow, her mind replayed the kiss and Grayson's words. "Harper, you're walking a road that wasn't in the plan," she whispered to herself, yet the smile never left her lips. With her boundless optimism, she knew whatever came next, she'd face it with joy and an open heart. Because now she wasn't just the fake girlfriend anymore. She was Harper Quinn, the woman who was making Grayson Blake's heart fall for her, for real. After their peaceful days by the sea, Harper Quinn and Grayson Blake returned to the penthouse, where traces of their rain-soaked kiss still lingered in the air. Harper, with her ever-optimistic and playful spirit, continued to light up the space with new design ideas and jokes that made it impossible for Grayson not to smile. But deep down, a vague worry clung to her, the fear that this once fake relationship, even if it had blossomed into something real, might still not be strong enough to overcome the invisible barriers between them. Then a secret from Harper's past resurfaced, pulling her into an unexpected emotional storm. It all started one morning, while Harper was sitting in the living room sketching, humming to herself and bouncing her feet to the music. She didn't notice Grayson standing in the corner of the room, silently watching her with an intensity that went beyond curiosity. Over the past few days, Grayson had come to realize that Harper was much more than a quirky girl with a radiant smile. Through her vibrant sketches and heartfelt stories, he had seen her raw talent and burning passion for design. But he'd also noticed something else Harper rarely talked about: her past, especially the time before she became a freelance designer. Driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, Grayson quietly dug deeper. With the resources of a corporate titan, it didn't take long for him to find an old article from City Elite 2 years prior. The headline was sensational and cruel. It accused Harper of plagiarizing a coworker's design in a major project. The scandal led to her being fired, her reputation shattered, and her quiet withdrawal from the design world for 2 long years. Grayson read every line, his eyes darkening. He knew enough about Harper to see the truth: she wasn't capable of something like that. But what angered him more was that she had silently endured the pain, never once mentioning it, still smiling like sunlight breaking through clouds. Without telling her, Grayson took action. He contacted a major advertising agency, one where Blake Enterprises held shares, and sent them a portfolio of Harper's designs. These were the works she had created at the penthouse: playful coffee shop logos, bold concepts for mock ad campaigns, illustrations brimming with personality. He requested they launch the collection under Harper's real name, with a full media campaign to restore her reputation. "She deserves to be seen," Grayson told the agency partner over the phone, his voice low and resolute. He didn't tell Harper, not because he wanted control, but because he wanted this to be a surprise, a silent apology for ever doubting her. But Harper was not someone easily kept in the dark. One afternoon, while checking her email, she opened a message from an old friend in the design world. "Harper, you're back. Your designs are blowing up online. Star Vibe just released a whole series under your name." Harper opened her laptop, scrolling through article after article. Her work, those very sketches she'd drawn in the penthouse, was everywhere, praised for its creativity and charm. Social media was flooded with compliments for Harper Quinn. At first, she was thrilled, but then confusion settled in. She had never sent those designs out. She turned to Grayson, who was sitting calmly at his desk. Her eyes sparkled with disbelief and something more complicated. "Boss man, what exactly did you do behind my back?" she asked, her tone playful but edged with seriousness. She held her phone up like evidence. Grayson looked up, slightly surprised, but composed himself quickly. "What do you mean?" he asked, voice even, as if he knew nothing. Harper walked over, placed her phone in front of him on the screen, an article showcasing her design work. "These designs, I never submitted them. So how are they out there, under my name, in a full-blown marketing campaign? What do you know, boss man?" Her hands rested on the table, her expression teasing but clearly tinged with frustration. Grayson exhaled, knowing he couldn't keep it hidden any longer. "I sent them," he admitted, locking eyes with her. "I found out what happened 2 years ago, Harper. I know how they tried to ruin you, and I wanted to make it right." Harper froze, emotions crashing in like waves. She was touched by his effort deeply, but also upset that he had taken such a personal matter into his own hands. "You had no right to do that," she said, her voice rising, fists clenched. "That's my past, Grayson. I chose to leave it behind and move forward with my smile. Who are you to decide for me?" She turned away, fighting tears, her voice trembling. Grayson stood, stepped forward, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I just wanted you to be recognized for who you truly are, he said softly, and for the first time, he called her you instead of Ms. Quinn. I've seen your work, your passion, and I couldn't stand the thought of you hiding it because of what they did. I didn't want you to carry that shame alone anymore. Harper turned to him, eyes glassy, but her familiar smile slowly returned. You're such an idiot, boss man, she said softly. Thank you. But next time, ask me first. I'm not so fragile that I need a hero. Grayson smiled rare, but warm. I don't think you're fragile. I think you deserve the whole world. Harper winked, trying to mask her emotion with mischief. The whole world, huh? I'd settle for a bubble tea and you eating breakfast with me every day. She burst out laughing, but inside she knew what Grayson had done was more than a gift. It was proof that he truly cared, not as part of a contract, but as a man who saw her worth. That night, Harper sat in her room, scrolling through articles celebrating her design comeback. She whispered to herself, Harper, you're stronger than the lies they told. And now, you have someone who believes in you. With her trademark radiant smile, she promised herself that no matter how the past tried to pull her down, she would keep moving forward. And this time, she wouldn't be doing it alone. Grayson Blake was no longer just the cold CEO in a fake relationship. He was slowly becoming something real in her heart. It all began one afternoon, as Harper sat in the penthouse living room, sketching a new design with K-pop blasting in her headphones. She hummed along, her signature smile bright and carefree, until Mr. Henry, the butler, stepped in with a rare look of tension on his face. Miss Harper, you have a visitor, he said quietly. But the unease in his tone was clear. Before Harper could ask who it was, a woman walked in, poised, powerful, and every bit as intimidating as Grayson. She wore a sleek business dress, her silver hair neatly pinned up, and her sharp eyes swept over Harper like she was evaluating an object, not a person. It was Eleanor Blake, Grayson's mother, the matriarch of the Blake family, notorious for her ruthless grip on the family's reputation. Harper stood, offering a polite smile, though a chill had settled in her chest. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Harper Quinn, she said, extending a hand. Eleanor simply nodded without shaking it. I know who you are, she said icily, and I'm here to talk about your relationship with my son. Harper raised an eyebrow but kept her composure. I'm guessing you didn't come to share bubble tea with me, she joked, trying to lighten the mood. Eleanor's glare only sharpened. She sat down on the sofa without invitation, as if claiming territory. Miss Quinn, I'll be direct. You are not suitable for Grayson. You have no background, no status, and you don't belong in our world. Whether your relationship is real or fake, it needs to end. The words cut like a blade, but Harper didn't flinch. She crossed her arms, her eyes gleaming with quiet strength. I respect your opinion, she replied, her tone firm yet respectful. But whatever exists between Grayson and me isn't something you get to decide. He's a grown man. So am I. Eleanor's lips curled into a sneer. You really think you can walk into the Blake family? If Grayson insists on being with you, he'll lose his inheritance and his position in the company. Are you willing to let him throw everything away for a girl like you? Harper froze. Her mind raced to thoughts of Grayson, the man who protected her from Caleb, who restored her reputation without asking for anything in return, who kissed her in the rain with a sincerity that shook her to the core. She didn't want him to lose everything he had worked his entire life for. That night, Harper lay on the bed, clutching her heart-shaped plush pillow, her chest heavy. She knew she loved Grayson, not just for the romantic moments, but because he had seen her, even when she was buried in her past. But was that love enough to justify the price he might pay? Harper, you can't be selfish, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. She wiped them quickly and reminded herself, crying is allowed, breaking down isn't. The next morning, Harper quietly packed her things. She couldn't make Grayson choose between her and his family, between her and everything he'd built. Before she left, she placed a letter on the kitchen table where they had once shared breakfast filled with laughter. It was scribbled in her messy handwriting, but full of raw feeling. Grayson, thank you for showing me love is real. You were my hero, but I don't want you to lose your world because of me. Stay strong, boss man. Harper. She added a smiley face, holding on to her trademark optimism even as her heart shattered. Harper left the penthouse before Grayson returned, carrying just her plush pillow and a small suitcase. She went back to her old apartment, trying to focus on her design work. But every line she drew reminded her of Grayson, his deep gaze, his rare but genuine smile, and that one handhold that had never been part of the act. "You'll be okay, Harper," she whispered. "You always are." But Grayson Blake wasn't the kind of man who gave up. When he came home and found her letter, his eyes darkened. He gripped the paper tightly, reading every word as if each one squeezed his heart tighter. Without hesitation, he called his security team. "Find her. I don't care how. Just find her." He searched everywhere: her old apartment, the cafes she liked, even Golden Plaza Mall, where they'd first met. But Harper, in her quiet determination, made sure to stay hidden. She didn't want him to see her in this fragile state. Eventually, Grayson returned home, only to face his mother in a tense family meeting. Eleanor, cold and composed, repeated her ultimatum: Harper or the Blake legacy. Grayson stood, his voice calm but thunderous. "I'd rather lose everything, my inheritance, the company, all of it, than lose her." The room fell into stunned silence. Eleanor was speechless, seeing for the first time that her son had found something he valued even more than power. Grayson walked out with one purpose in mind: find Harper. He didn't know where she was, but he knew what she was to him. She had brought light into his life, not just through her radiant smile or quirky jokes, but through her strength and her heart. Meanwhile, Harper sat in her tiny apartment, hugging her plush cat, whispering to herself, "You did the right thing, Harper, so why does it hurt so much?" Even in heartbreak, she smiled through the tears, believing, hoping that one day this pain would heal, and when it did, she'd keep moving forward, just like she always had. A year had passed since Harper Quinn walked away from Grayson Blake's penthouse. Now she stood in the Grand Starlight Convention Center under shimmering lights at the launch of her very first design collection, Quinn Vibe Studio. Clad in a curve-hugging sapphire blue dress, her natural curls tied up in a playful ponytail, Harper radiated like a star beneath the flashes and applause. She had clawed her way back past the scandal, beyond the heartbreak, to rebuild her dreams from scratch. Quinn Vibe Studio, with its vibrant, whimsical designs, had taken the industry by storm, and today was proof she had made it. Yet behind the glowing smile, her heart still held an empty space, a quiet echo of Grayson, the man who once made her believe that love could be real. The hall was packed: journalists, clients, even old friends from the design world. On stage, Harper took the mic with confidence and flair. "Thank you all for being here today," she chirped. "Quinn Vibe isn't just my company, it's my heart, spilled onto every sketch and splash of color. Life's tough, I know. But hey, smile big anyway. That's how we win." She winked, and laughter rippled through the crowd with a round of applause. Harper's boundless optimism had, as always, become contagious. As she stepped down to mingle with the guests, the camera flashes suddenly intensified, and a hush fell over the room. Harper looked up and froze. Through the crowd walked a man whose silhouette she could never forget. Grayson Blake, in a perfectly tailored black suit, exuding quiet dominance, with those same piercing blue eyes locked on her. Time slowed to a breathless pause. Harper, ever the strong one, felt her heartbeat quicken. Every emotion she'd buried over the past year surged up like a wave, but she lifted her chin, masking it all with a cheeky smile. "Lost your way, boss man?" she teased, tilting her head. "This isn't the Blake Enterprises boardroom, you know. It's my party tonight." Grayson didn't answer, not with words. He stepped forward, and before the entire stunned room, he pulled her into his arms. It wasn't just a hug, it was an anchor, a promise, a reunion of two souls who had never truly let go. Harper blinked, shocked, but then she smiled. Her arms wrapped around him, returning the embrace, drinking in the familiar warmth she never thought she'd feel again. Grayson leaned down, his voice rough with emotion, whispering in her ear, "Last time you hugged me to hide from your ex. This time, let me hold you forever." The crowd gasped, then erupted into applause and cheers. Tears streamed down Harper's cheeks, but her smile stayed wide and radiant. She looked up at him, eyes shimmering with both mischief and joy. "Fine, boss man," she replied playfully, "but only if you promise to eat breakfast with me every day. No skipping." Grayson chuckled, a deep, warm sound that melted her all over again. The cameras kept clicking, the applause roared on. But for Harper and Grayson, the world had shrunk to just the two of them. She pulled him to a quieter corner, away from the spotlight, her eyes dancing with curiosity. "How the heck did you find me?" she asked, hands on her hips, trying to act tough, even as fresh tears sparkled in her eyes. Grayson smiled, gently wiping one of them away. "You can hide from the world, Harper," he murmured, "but not from me. I looked everywhere and I won't let you disappear again." She laughed and hugged him again, this time tighter, as if to say, "You found me. I'm here." In that moment, every wound, every scar, felt like it had finally healed. Harper thought of how far she'd come from that fateful hug in the mall, to flipping Grayson's penthouse upside down, to that kiss in the rain, and then the heartbreak. Through it all, she had chosen to face life with laughter, and that laughter had somehow led her to a happy ending, more magical than any dream. "You know, boss man," she whispered, nestled against his chest, "I used to think our contract was just pretend, but it turns out it was the realest thing I've ever had." Grayson held her tighter, eyes filled with truth. "I don't need a contract to keep you by my side," he said, before pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Harper smiled, teary-eyed but glowing. She knew now no matter what life threw their way, she'd always have Grayson beside her. Not as a cold-hearted CEO, but as the man who chose to hold her for life. The event wrapped up in cheers and congratulations. But Harper and Grayson slipped away early, fingers entwined, walking beneath the lights of the city. Harper looked up at him, her smile as bright as ever. "Boss man, you ready for a brand new adventure with me? I warn you, I plan to turn your world upside down." Grayson laughed, pulling her closer. "I've been ready since the very first hug, Harper." And together they walked off into the night, leaving behind the flashbulbs, the crowds, and one unforgettable love story that all began with a single, accidental hug. 6 months after the debut of Quinn Vibe Studio, Harper Quinn stood in front of a mirror, dressed in an ivory wedding gown with delicate lace and a soft silk flow. Her messy curls were loosely tied with tiny flowers, and in her arms her ever-faithful plush cat. "Harper Quinn, you're marrying a billionaire. Who would have thought?" she whispered with a grin. Meanwhile, Grayson Blake, no longer the cold CEO, adjusted his tie, his eyes reflecting rare happiness. "I'm marrying the woman who turned my world upside down," he told Mr. Henry. The outdoor wedding was like a dream's sunlight, fresh blooms and soft music. When Harper walked down the aisle with Mr. Henry by her side, the crowd fell silent. "Ready to marry a certified weirdo?" she whispered playfully to Grayson. "I've been ready since that first hug," he replied. Their vows were simple yet heartfelt. Harper, as always, added her signature twist. "I promise to make you laugh every day, and if you skip breakfast, I'm shoving a sandwich in your hand." Laughter echoed through the garden. At the reception, Harper dragged Grayson to dance to her favorite K-pop song. "Move it, Mr. CEO, I'll teach you." He tried, awkward but eager, earning a belly laugh from her. Then came the biggest surprise. Eleanor Blake approached them. Harper held her breath. But the once stern woman smiled. "I owe you an apology," she said. "You made my son better. Thank you." Harper blinked back tears and hugged her. "I'll keep shaking the world in my own chaotic way." Later that night, beneath the moonlight and twinkling garden lights, Harper leaned into Grayson's arms. "From a mistaken hug to a real wedding," she murmured. "And I'll hug you like this every day, forever," he whispered back. Harper giggled, eyes sparkling. "Fine, but only if you promise to eat ice cream with me." Their laughter mingled with the stars as their forever began hand in hand, hearts wide open.